Hey guys, Harry here, and welcome to another episode of Harry Talks. You're joined by myself and Charlotte Clarke, who has just completed a 50-kilometer ultra marathon on Saturday. So well done, Charlotte.
Thank
Amazing
you.
effort for the British Heart Foundation as well. Would you like to give us a little introduction? Who are you? What do you do? And what do you love about running? That'd be awesome.
Cool. Thanks, Harry. Hi, guys. I am Charlotte. I am very fast approaching 30. And I, I run a lot and I don't do anything social media or running related for my real job. I help students to get themselves in a pickle at university. But yeah, I picked up running again with my dog to keep her happy, and then was just like, oh, I'm actually all right at this again. So kind
Yeah,
of fell back into it.
brilliant. Yeah, I bet it's a tricky job this year with university with everything going on. But yeah, that's besides the point. But yeah, brilliant recent achievement on Saturday. Like it's been great following all the social media as we just discussed. You put up a little video as well documenting the whole experience. Um, Before you kind of started with the ultra marathon and just thinking about doing that, what was your kind of previous race experience? Have you done a marathon before, 10K, 5K? What were your kind of races before that?
Before that, the furthest I'd run like competitively was 10K. So I grew up running and dancing, and like me and my dad would just go running for fun and stuff. My mum never really understood that, but me and my
Same here.
dad would go like running for fun. And I used to do at school, I was into cross country running, and on sports day, I'd enter as many events as I could, and it'd be the 800 meters and the 1500. And then as I got a little bit older, sort of like 16 to 19, I'd enter like the local 10K.
Okay.
And I look back at photos now, and it's hilarious. The last one I did, I entered on it. I was just like, I didn't train for it, and I was like, right, I'm just going to do it. I'm
Yeah.
not going to train. I'm just going to do it. And I've got like these 3/4 length sweatpants on. I've got these like massive sunglasses on. Who do I think I am? And inhaler in hand, because I was asthmatic.
Oh, really? Okay.
My form, like the running photos I've seen from that, but my form is horrendous. And I had a heart condition then as
Yeah.
well. And I used to sprint the finish, and I'd pass out at the finish line, and St John's ambulance would be waiting for me every year,
Oh, you'd
knowing,
actually properly pass out. Oh,
yeah.
damn. Okay.
I've got a scar, obviously can't really show you. I've
Hmm.
got a scar on my leg from when I did a sports day once, and I passed out at the end, and I was wearing long grass spikes, and my right foot tore into my
Oh,
left calf. So I've got a nice little trophy there from that.
right
But
on the finish line was that? Like,
yeah, I
oh
won, so it's okay.
wow. Yeah.
But but yeah, and so I never fared too well like as I crossed the finish line. Um, and then I went to uni, did dance, stopped running. Or no, I did a race for life back
Hmm.
when it was only women that could do it. And I think in 2011, finished fourth out of 4,000 people, which was
Pretty
incredible.
impressive, to be fair.
I always forget about that one. And then just stopped running.
Yeah. How long was that? Sorry, the race for life?
5K, only
5K.
5K.
Yeah.
But then that was my last race. So that was 2011.
Right.
Stopped running, did my dance degree, got into bodybuilding competitions, and then got into kind of CrossFit style stuff because I was just over being judged on my appearance. Like I'd grown
Yeah.
up dancing, did modeling, did TV work, went into bodybuilding competitions, and so my whole life had been based on what I looked like.
Yeah.
And I was just done.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, I want to do something that I'm actually judged on merit and performance. So
And
yeah.
just to quickly put in, I kind of follow bodybuilding somewhat just from like YouTubers and Instagrammers, and I really feel like they don't get the respect they deserve for the effort they get in. There's a lot of like cliches about bodybuilders, oh, they take this, they do that, they don't work hard, but the dedication in terms of like nutrition, and obviously exercise to look as they do is phenomenal. Like I'd argue that it's like even a lot harder than running in many ways because you've got to literally look as good as you can. And to do that, like you'll know obviously yourself, like there'll be days when you're not eating much at all. Like the calories are going to be super low, especially when you cut in. So yeah, big respect for that. How long did you do bodybuilding for roughly?
Just over around 3 years.
3 years. Yeah.
Yeah, I did 3 competitions, and I did the first couple of years I was vegan
Right.
whilst I was doing it as well, which made it even more difficult.
Mm.
But I was a personal trainer at the time, which
Right.
meant that I was kind of living and breathing fitness 24/7. I
Mm.
could train in off-peak times when no one else was around. I could manage clients around my energy levels sometimes.
Yeah.
And then I'd already decided I wasn't going to compete anymore, but then I switched into an office-based job because I wanted to get more into the mental health side of things as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know how people do bodybuilding shows with a 9 to 5.
It's incredible, isn't it?
It's,
It is incredible.
yeah.
What just I know it's slightly off topic, but what did you kind of do nutrition wise? Were you like having the same things every day, or what was it like when you were really, going for that peak body, I guess?
So I did 3 competitions.
Okay.
But so I didn't over diet, so I didn't enter lots and lots of shows because I didn't want to look weathered
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
and just like stringy. So I just spaced my shows out so I could have a good area for improvement between them. My first show I did very if it fits your macros, because the guy who was prepping me, it was like a project for us both. I'd never competed before and he'd never prepped anyone before, so
Okay.
it was all very collaborative. And so I did if it fits your macros for that one, and then my second and third shows I followed a meal plan and
Right.
ate the same thing every day for like 4 weeks at a time, and then I'd check
Mm.
in with my coach and we'd make any like adjustments that we needed. But I worked kind of better that way. I knew exactly what I was having, and it meant that it wasn't in my power to accidentally have, oh, I'll sneak a bit of this in today, because I haven't got the willpower. At one point I had to get one of my housemates to confiscate my good almond butter
100%.
because I
Yeah.
couldn't trust myself.
It is hard though, isn't it, when you live in a house and whether it's friends, family, girlfriend, boyfriend, or whatever, and you know, you can treat yourself, but if there's like a cupboard full of chocolate or sweets or whatever, it's hard to kind of, not have it basically. So yeah, totally understand that. So when you're competing I assume it was England when you were competing for bodybuilding. Is it kind of like regional? How does it actually work, or is it just like towns? Like, how does it work, that kind of
So
thing?
I joined, you basically pick your federation that you're going to compete with.
Okay.
And mine was more of like a fitness model show. So
Mm.
the physiques are fairly similar, regardless of what show you're doing. It's the posing that kind of
Yeah.
changes it and what happens next. So the one that I entered was more like fitness model. So the posing was very loose in that you had to have like a front pose, a side pose, and a back pose, but it was up to you to display your body in the best possible way.
Okay.
It
Yeah.
wasn't like when you turn this way, this is the exact pose you're going to do, and we're going to judge the best person in that pose.
Right. Okay.
You could kind of just be quite fluid in your posing, just showing off your physique to match their categories.
A bit more kind of freestyle, would you say? Yeah.
Yeah, which suited me. I'd grown up dancing, so it was fine. But there were only 2 levels to it. So you had amateur and pro, and once you get your pro card, like if you like win or if they think you're fine to compete with the pros. But once you become a pro, there's no more progression in the federation that I chose. So obviously with some of the other like bigger federations, you then get the chance to go and compete with pros internationally, and there's all these like big prizes and sponsorships and things like that. And so mine wasn't one of those kind of federations, and so once you became a pro, there wasn't much after that, I guess.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And to be fair, I think because bodybuilding a lot of the time isn't respected, maybe the rewards in terms of like prize money when you get to pro level maybe isn't, well, definitely isn't as much as it should be, to be honest, from what I've kind of seen and heard. Especially for the amount of dedication people are putting in, especially at a pro level, of course. So yeah, hopefully that'll change in the next few years. I don't know if you follow a guy called Greg Doucette on YouTube. No, but he's a bodybuilder anyway, and he's really funny the way he like spreads his message. Very to the point. He could probably offend a lot of people, but he's a good guy. But yeah, anyway, so you did bodybuilding for about 3 years, and then you moved to an office job, and was running picked up straight away, or did you kind of do that for a little bit and then?
No, I didn't. For the first time ever, I took like a whole year out of training.
Okay, nothing at all.
Nothing at all other than walking my dog. So I left an abusive relationship and kind of it was like pretty much like an emergency move. Like woke up one morning, shit, we need to leave. Left. Didn't have anywhere to live, cancelled my gym membership, all things like that. And then my dog's and still got, especially after all this corona, separation anxiety. And I now live in a flat, and she cried a lot in the first week I was living there, so somebody put a complaint in, and so she can't be left by herself until I've now got the opportunity to have like an empty flat to train her again, because during corona we're all home, so I've not been able to do that. And so there was no point in me having a gym membership when I couldn't leave really to go. And I just wasn't inspired to do home workouts. And so I was just like, do you know what? I've got no aesthetic goals.
You've kind of done that, haven't you? You've kind of achieved, a lot in that area. And as you said, you wanted something more on kind of merit, or at least more respected, I guess.
Yeah. And I was really fortunate. I found myself in a mental headspace that I didn't expect to be in, where I didn't feel the need to train. I'd been training for 28 years, pretty much. And for the first time ever, I was just like, if I want to, at some point I'll pick it up again. But right now, I'm actually enjoying not. And so I didn't for nearly a year, and then so I left in the start of the June. I probably started running again with Bonnie at the end of December. So no, it wasn't a year. What am I talking about? I took a solid 6 months of nothing. Six months of absolutely nothing.
It's a significant period of time, though, isn't it? 6 months.
Yeah. And then decided I'd get one of those like belt lead things and see if Bonnie took to running. And she loves it. And so I didn't start running again with the intention for it to be such a big thing or become competitive. It was just a nice activity for me and Bonnie to do together. And then I was like, do you know what? I quite enjoy this again. And I'm actually still all right. Still all right at it.
More than all right.
Yeah, despite being like a good 10 kilos heavier than I was back when I was running competitively. So
when you said you started again in December, you literally mean the last December, is that right?
Yeah.
Wow, okay. So you started again last December, and then you've obviously got this amazing story with your heart condition and the British Heart Foundation. And then, so you've gone from doing, as a kid, kind of 5-10Ks, or at least when you were younger, 5-10Ks. You do a bit of bodybuilding, take a break, and then suddenly you think, you know what, I'm going to do an ultra marathon, not a half marathon, not a marathon. Well, we're just going to go for a 50K ultra. What's the kind of thinking behind that?
So the British Heart Foundation contacted me, and they were like, we're putting a team together for the London to Brighton bike ride. would you be on our women's team and we'll do a feature on you and everything. Obviously that got cancelled because of COVID, but before that so when I had my heart condition, I wasn't allowed to ride a bike on the road. I wasn't allowed to have baths in case I passed out and things like that. And so I was like, this would be quite a cool thing to do. Like, she's not really ridden a bike on the road before, really. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, I'm not sure cycling's really the thing. I haven't got the expendable income to be buying a bike because they couldn't source one for me. So I haven't got the expendable income to be buying a bike, be buying all the kit and putting in all this time that I can't do any of it with Bonnie. And so I'd have to rely on all the people around me. And so I emailed them and was like, I still want to do something together, and I still want to raise money for you because I'm so fortunate not to struggle with any heart problems now. But I know so many people aren't that fortunate. So I wanted to give back still. And then I was like, my boyfriend had started getting me and Bonnie into going to park runs. So I was up to like 5K at this point. And then me and Bonnie would do a couple of like 10Ks, but it was still just over the hour mark. Like I wasn't moving quick.
50 yet.
No, exactly. And I was like, if I'm going to do something for charity, it's got to be something outside of my comfort zone and something that's going to gain traction to actually encourage people to donate.
Yeah.
And I was like, everyone picks a marathon. I'm not everyone. I was like, I've got to do something that's bigger than that. And so I went through the events that they were listed as like official sponsors for, and picked a 50K. And then all of a sudden I was like, what have I done? I've picked a 50K. And at that point, the furthest, I decided one night after work, just before I entered that, to just run until I didn't want to run anymore.
Okay.
Because Bonnie was staying, I think she was staying overnight somewhere. And so I didn't have any like responsibilities in the evening. And I was like, right, I'm just going to run until I don't want to run anymore. And I managed 18K. And so at the point where I'd entered the 50, the furthest I'd ever run was 18K once.
18K. Sorry, when was it exactly you entered the 50?
I want to say end of February.
End of February. Okay, wow. Okay.
And so it just so then like I got a coach and everything to coach me for my 50.
Is it Martha?
Yeah, Martha Lambert. And we used to work together in London when I was PTing. So she coached me the whole way. But yeah, I'd run 18K, entered this 50 back in end of February. It might have even been the beginning of March.
Yeah.
And I know lockdown and everything, like really like tore some people apart and like messed things up for a lot of people. But it actually helped my training. I was working from home. Bonnie was here, meaning that I didn't have to drop her at doggy daycare and then do my commute to work and stuff.
Yeah.
It meant that other people were at home to look after her if I just wanted to nip out for a run, and she could come and run with me and stuff. Obviously not on long runs.
Yeah.
But that 1 hour that we were allowed, like that one time we were allowed out of the day, I could go and use that to run. And so it really helped my training.
Yeah, to be honest, like I've heard that from a lot of people. Like obviously, as you said, a lot of people have struggled and it's been a rough time. But on the other hand, there's been so many people that have kind of used it as a little break or a little time to kind of really focus on training. If work's cancelled or like university cancelled or whatever it is, it's given them a chance to properly focus on a target, like exactly how you've done. So yeah, even if it was just an hour at the start of lockdown, gave you a chance to just build up a bit of momentum, I guess, and slowly build up towards that target you were aiming for.
Yeah, and each time I had a long run in my plan, it was the longest I'd ever run each time I took one on. And so the 18K that I'd run previous, that came quite quickly. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, okay, I've never run this far. And so I think it was only in June, might have been June that I ran a half marathon for the first time. And
June,
then
so we're in September now.
now.
So 3 months before your actual
Ultra.
event, you were
Yeah.
just doing a half marathon. Wow, okay.
And I'd have people like, I swear you only just did your first ever half marathon the other day. And I'm like, I did, but I've got bigger things that I need to do.
Yeah.
And the most sensible thing I did was get a coach, because I know I would have upped the distance way too quickly. I probably wouldn't have taken deload weeks, even though as a personal trainer, I know all this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when you're doing it yourself, it's really hard to stay accountable to those kinds of rules.
It's accountability, right? That's the main thing. Like with a coach, as you said, like you know a lot of the things you need to do. You're a personal trainer, right? And kind of same from my position, I know a lot of the kind of sessions, but there's no way I'm going to do them if I don't have a coach. So yeah, totally with you on that. Totally with you.
Yeah, and I probably would have had too much mileage in the week as well, rather than just like a few like shorter runs and then a long run at the weekend. So that was the most like sensible thing that I did. And then the 50, just I did my first marathon 5 weeks ago. That went horrendously.
Yeah, so tell us a bit about that. So obviously, like you had this training period before the marathon, and would you say it went, fairly well up until that point? Like, obviously it was tricky, but you were kind of pushing through it fairly well. Would you say that?
Yeah. At the start of lockdown, I'd had like a niggle in my TFL and just felt like my quads were crumbling.
Okay.
Because I'm hypermobile, so a lot of like IT band stretches and things like that, I can't get into the position to, because I've just got too much mobility in my joints.
So what, you can't like stretch it? Is that what you
mean? So a typical like IT band stretch, I get into it and I'm like, oh, what am I supposed to be feeling? Like, and I had a like video consultation with a physio, with an osteo and everything when I was having these problems. She's like, okay, I need you to do this. And I'm like, okay, what now? So I struggled with that. And like my normal stretches just weren't hitting it. If I do a typical quad stretch, my quads don't feel it. I have to get into like weird positions to get into stretches, but that's a different issue. But once we'd kind of tackled that back in March, it's been pretty much plain sailing all the way through until marathon day 5 weeks ago.
Yeah, so it was an interesting one, was it? I think if I remember correctly, you did it. The day was really hot.
Yeah.
Was it the hottest day of the year?
It was the hottest day.
Hottest day.
It was supposed to be an actual event.
Yeah.
That got cancelled, but because I had this 50 to do, I still had to complete it as a training run.
Yeah.
Hottest day ever.
Yeah.
And I'd entered a virtual race, because who's gonna run their first ever marathon and not want a medal for it?
Yeah.
So I'd entered a virtual race to do it so I could get a medal, which meant that I had to do it that weekend. I couldn't shift it. I set off at 7 a.m. in the hope to try and beat the heat, but it was already so warm.
On your own, right, for the whole time? Completely
on my own the entire way. And I got to half marathon and I was like, oh no, like, I'm gonna have to stop in at the flat, go to the bathroom, top up my drinks already, and I was loaded up like a donkey, I swear. I had my Salomon pack on with my 2 bottles here. Yeah. And because I knew it was about to get so hot, I'd put a bladder in the back as well.
Okay, yeah.
So it was a good couple of kilos heavier than normal.
Oh, I just quickly, I was totally guessing yesterday. I took a bladder. After the first 100 meters, I was like, oh my God, I've made a huge mistake here. It was so heavy and it was bouncing around. So yeah. I understand that.
And so because before that, I'd either had a bladder or my bottles.
Right.
I'd not had both. So I'd loaded myself up. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so heavy. And it was so hot. Got to half marathon and I was like, oh, I don't know about this. I was like, come on, you've got this. Went back out, carried on, got to 24 kilometers perhaps. So not even far after where I just stopped at half. I had luckily put my face mask in my pack. I was like, I need something ice cold. I had to go into the co-op and get a drink. I had like a quick sip of Coke, poured a bottle of water over my head because I was wearing a visor. So I just poured water in the open bit here to try and cool me down.
Yeah.
And then I was like, right, okay. Carried on running. I was like, I don't even care about pace right now. I'm just going to plod it out and get it done. I got to 30 kilometers and I just broke down. I stopped, bawled my eyes out, called my boyfriend, and I was like, I don't think I can do this. It was the hottest day ever.
Yeah.
And it was my first ever marathon. I'm running it completely by myself, no aid stations, nobody that I know is suffering with me. Everyone just seemed to be out doing casual runs, having the time of their lives, running past me. And it was honestly so tragic. And so, yeah, cried to my boyfriend and he was like, no, you can do it, you can do it. And then I called one of my friends and I was like, you've normally got funny stories. Can you just sit on the phone with me while I run the last 12K?
Did you actually do that? Was she on the phone? Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, so she'd actually just got to Ibiza. And this was like before like the new quarantine laws, or rules rather. And so she just got to Ibiza and had some stories to tell me. And so she sat on the phone with me for about 7 kilometers. And so then I just had 5 to get out by myself afterwards. But oh my God, the struggle was so real.
I completely believe you. Like, first of all, you've got the hottest day of the year, at least one of them, probably the hottest day. Secondly, completely on your own, which makes it so much harder. You know, when you're with people, it really takes your mind off it, doesn't it? Because you're just talking along, and it's just when you're on your own, it's a constant mental battle. So to have that and the heat and then the weight, everything in your head's kind of going against you. But I guess in a way, as hard as it was, and obviously you got a bit upset during it, if you reflected on it, it was actually such a brilliant achievement to do all that with the heat, being on your own. Because you knew really on the day of the ultra, the chance that it wasn't going to be the hottest day. You never know, it could have been, but it wasn't going to be the hottest day. You were going to have some friends along, and well, it was experience, wasn't it? So you knew what to bring with you. It's just all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So as bad as it was, I'm sure, would you agree, it helped you going into that big day, the ultra marathon?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it was a proper character building run. Like there was some digging deep I had to do.
Yeah.
But part of me, because of that marathon experience, although I knew it wasn't going to be the hottest day on the earth, and being a girl, it was also a different week in the month for me. It made me, I'd prepared myself for another really grueling, gruesome run.
Right.
And so when it was actually going better than that, I was like, wow, I'm flying. This is great. Because I'd mentally prepared myself for it to be the hardest thing I've ever done.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I actually think that standard length marathon I did was far harder than the 50 I did this weekend.
Yeah. So just before we go into that in a bit more detail, so you did the full marathon 5 weeks before the ultra, right? So just quickly, what was your training from that marathon to the ultra? Was it a lot based on kind of recovery and rest a lot of the time, or was it?
Yeah,
it was long. Yeah.
It was pretty much like I took a week off after the marathon, and then I pretty much had almost like a 4-week taper ish.
Okay.
Like I was supposed to have a long run in there that was 25 kilometers, but I had the worst. It sounds like the worst excuse, but the worst ingrown toenail in the world.
Yeah, I remember you said that. Yeah.
Oh my God. Honestly, since January, I've lost my big toenail once, and then that's had issues since. I've lost my second toenail twice. I've lost it, it's grown back, and then I've lost it again.
Yeah.
And then one this side is on its way off, and then I've lost like the second one on the other foot as well.
Oh my God.
Feet are not made for running.
Is it? Is it your shoes, or is it? Because I've had that before, but it's usually like an issue with a shoe or something. But is it just?
So it turns out it wasn't my shoes, because I've been trialing different shoes and it was happening all the time.
Okay.
It was my socks.
Right. Okay.
So they had a very, I mean, they are great socks and they should have been fine, but they had a very, very faint seam that ran over the top.
Okay.
It's like right on like your toe tips.
Yeah.
Obviously you've got fingertips, and if they're called toe tips, but right along like the tips of your toes. And it was causing blisters under the nail.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah.
then once they popped, there then wasn't any skin attached to the nail, and the nail would come off.
Right.
Gross, I know. But
yeah.
I didn't believe it was them because I couldn't really feel the seam. And then I looked at them really closely and I was like, oh, there actually is a seam. Let's try some different socks. I bought some 2XU ones that don't have a seam across the toes. And then after my 50, my feet are fine. Like, I've spent like the last 9 months having like the worst feet ever, and now they're okay after the biggest run.
Biggest one. Well, I guess if there's one way you want them to be okay, it would be that one, right? But yeah. So finally got to the big day. Just 2 days ago now, wasn't it? Yeah, 2 days ago. And yeah, you did it for the British Heart Foundation. I had a look at your charity page, raised over £1,000, which is incredible for any kind of effort you do. So well done for that. But yeah, got to the big day on Saturday. I assume the conditions were pretty fair, pretty kind of moderate.
Yeah, so it was a little bit warmer than I would have wanted it to have been. Especially a few weeks ago when we were putting like coats back on. I was like, yes, this is going to be great. I'm going to have a nice cool run.
Bit of rain to cool you down kind of thing.
Yeah, and then it was like, heat waves coming again. I was like, no, don't do this to me. I think it got up to about 19 degrees.
Okay.
So nothing mega. And I still set off at 7 a.m. again. So still tried to beat the heat. But it was far better, slightly fairer, like less running on the surface of the sun heat than the marathon.
Yeah, definitely. Just quickly, what did you eat in the morning before the run and the night before the run?
So I've got myself into a little bit of a tradition that the night before I have pesto gnocchi.
Oh, okay, yeah.
With chicken and roasted broccoli.
Oh, that would be.
And garlic bread.
I like the sound of that. That is a good pre-race meal if ever I've heard one. Definitely.
Yeah, but it's got to be fresh pesto, not. I sound like such a snob now. Since I've discovered fresh pesto, there's no going back. So it's buy like the fresh pasta down the food, like the fridge aisles. Yeah. So fresh pesto is the one.
Wait, so this is probably a really stupid question, but when you go to a supermarket and buy pesto off the store, how do you know if it's fresh? So
it's in like a plastic tub rather than a jar.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what I mean? So buy where like you'd get like your filled pasta, like tortellini or whatever, and you have the pasta sauces there. You can get like a tub of pesto that's got like whole pine nuts and stuff in.
So go for the jar. Is that right?
Don't go for the jar.
Oh,
go for the tub. Jar. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Right. Okay. I'll bear that in mind because I've only ever had the jar.
Yeah, this is next level. Right. So that's what I have the night before. And then morning of, I get up and have a beetroot shot.
Yeah.
An hour and a half before, so it meant getting up at 5:30.
How do you find them, by the way? You all right taking them down?
Yeah, because they're quite sweet. They're so concentrated, they're quite sweet because I don't like I love beetroot, but I don't like beetroot in like a fresh juice normally because it tastes really earthy.
Yeah.
But I found this doesn't taste like this. It almost tastes a bit tomatoey.
I've tried some as well myself, but I can't say I was as good as you were with them. I struggled a bit, but fair play.
Yeah, so I have one of those before. Then I'll have a coffee, which some could say is risky before a long run, but
because of the caffeine.
Because of the way it can play with your digestive system.
Right. Okay.
But I pretty much had that at 5:30 at the same time as the beat it shot, so I had an hour and a half before I was even leaving the house.
Okay.
Mainly because I've got myself into a pickle where if I don't have a coffee I get raging headaches now.
Right. Okay.
and I wasn't about to have that on my run.
No. No. No.
So had a coffee, and then had about 40 minutes before 2 slices of white bread toast with jam on.
Okay. Cool. So yeah, I guess it's not super carb heavy then. What you had the night before and in the morning. Like obviously you had the garlic bread and the toast, but
And the
apart from
gnocchi.
and the gnocchi, yeah, but maybe not super carb heavy, but
Yeah, so what I did over the week before was just increase more carbs into my day generally,
right. Okay.
rather
Yeah.
than a massive carb load the night before, because sometimes I can have a little bit of a sensitive stomach and I didn't want to
Mm,
wake up in the morning already feeling sluggish
yeah.
and like just push it that bit too far. So I
Mm,
just tried to, over the course of the week, increase my carbs like generally,
yeah.
so that I'd kind of had a bit of a carb load week rather than just the night before.
Yeah.
And then, oh, I had some just before I left as well, a sachet of the Kendall Mint ISO mix
Yeah.
before I left on the run. And then it was just more about fueling intra,
Right.
so that, yeah, I just didn't want to feel heavy and gross
Mm.
going into it. So yeah, I know some people really do smash it the night before, but
Well, yeah, I don't know if I had a 16-inch pizza.
biggest pizza.
Oh, it was delicious, but yeah, maybe not the best idea. But yeah, the Candle Mint ISO mix is brilliant as well. I actually wanted to use it yesterday, but unfortunately, I got up in the morning, made my bag with the ISO mix, went upstairs, and I came downstairs, and the whole bag had leaked everywhere. So with 10 minutes to go, I had to chuck it out, only put water in, and oh, it was a nightmare. But
Yeah.
anyway, it is great, and I've had some after the run actually. But yeah, we got to the big day, or you got to the big day, sorry, on Saturday. Um, and yeah, as I said, I've seen the video on Instagram, which is great, by the way. If anyone wants to check that out, it's on Charlotte's Instagram, which I'll link, of course. And yeah, tell me if I'm wrong, but it looked, as I said, you were fairly comfortable throughout. You had friends joining you in different stages for different lengths. You were smiling, the fact you were talking to the camera the whole, well, not the whole way, but in snippets, usually illustrates that you were finally, not finally, generally kind of happy with how it was going. So yeah, was it a good experience? Were you happy with it?
Oh, it couldn't have gone better. Even it like I said, I was anticipating it being horrendous, like the marathon. And so I was going along and I was like, oh yeah, this is great. I'm having the best time. And then I did the first 22 kilometers completely solo.
Mm.
And I'd arranged a checkpoint for my parents to kind of give me a, hey, keep going, like
With
11
the
kilometers
flag.
in. Yeah, with the flag. And so at the point where I met them, I'd accidentally jumped into or onto the course of a different race.
All right, okay.
Not like an official race. I think it must have been like, I don't know, running club had put on a race or something. And
Right.
so all of a sudden I was around other people that were like running like competitively. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm having a great time. And then
Yeah.
I was, yeah, still talking to the camera quite a lot. And then that had all been quite traily, like along the river.
Had you taken anything in for those first 22K or not, like food or water?
So I had a sip of water at 11K. I hadn't touched mine. Mum had a bottle there. So I had a sip of water at 11K and had a gel at about 9.
Okay. Which flavor did you go for?
I started with raspberry mint.
Yeah,
I was like, let's go for like a crisp, clean taste first.
yeah.
So I had, yeah, a gel about 9K, I think. And then not another until about 18, 19K.
Okay.
So I didn't obviously take it on when I needed it. I took it on in the hope that I wouldn't feel like I needed it, and it would kind of just do its thing. But I alternated between raspberry mint and chocolate mint. So
Right,
I had a
okay.
really clean one and quite an old indulgent one, a really clean one, a quite indulgent one.
Mm. Both
Um,
delicious though, aren't
so delicious,
they?
so delicious. But that I can't remember how many gels. I think I might have had 5 gels in total.
Okay.
Um, but that was all I had throughout the entire run. So I
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I've not quite taken to actually chewing and running at the same time yet. Like, I see so many posts of ultra runs like, yeah, I had a ham sandwich halfway through. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
I saw that as well, like avocado sandwiches and stuff like that. I'm like, is that a thing? But
yeah,
yeah, I think is it because it's like usually fats and like slow burning and that. But yeah, I just can't wrap my head around like you like taking anything other than like a gel, for example. But
yeah,
it clearly worked. Like 50K and 5 gels, and we'll go on to it. But your time as well was incredible, and the marathon time in itself. But
yeah.
yeah, so got up to 22K, feeling pretty good.
Mhm.
And then how was it from there going onwards?
Yeah, so I did a shoe change at 22K.
Mm.
Obviously, that's not, standard, but my race route was not standard.
Yeah.
So I've done the first 22 that was like quite traily. It was along the river,
Mm.
very, very mixed terrain. But I knew my last 28K was all road. So
Right.
I switched out of my trail shoes and into road shoes. And so I put those on, all of a sudden felt like I had springs in my feet. And I was like, oh my God, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I came breezing into that first, like, second checkpoint at 22K. And my mum was like, she doesn't even look like she's run around the corner. Like, she's not even like sweating. What's wrong with her? She's smiling. And at that point, yeah, shoe change, quick sip of Coke as well. Just like
What
a
are the
tiny
shoes?
sip.
Just quickly, they
So my trail shoes that I wore were the Nike Wild Horse 5s.
okay.
And the road shoes I wore were the Nike Zoom Fly 3s.
Okay, cool. I haven't tried that either, but I'm sure they're great. Sure they're great.
Yeah, just I found the trail shoes, they're not too like rigid and supportive. Like, there's still a bit more movement in there with a bit of cushioning, but
Okay.
not as cushioned as like a Hoka.
Right, so kind of more towards a road shoe, but still trail, would you say?
Yeah, I'll show you. Hold on.
Cool.
Like, they're not big, bulky things. They've got quite a good
Right.
tread on them, but
So
they've got like
yeah.
almost like a cushioned, like, bit, like, I suppose right where you need it on your midsole, but
Not aggressive grip, like they're quite gentle grip. So kind of perfect really, unless you are on like, muddy, boggy ground really.
yeah, and like my elevation gain across the whole 50K was like 79 meters, so it's not like I needed to like grip
Yeah.
going like uphill or anything. So yeah, shoe change out of those into the Zoom Flies, felt like I had springs in my feet and I was ready to go again. Went into then the next 11 and a half with my boyfriend, got back, and he sweats a lot. And they came back and they were like, Charlotte doesn't even look like she's ran. Mark, did you do all the running? Did you give her a piggyback? Like, what's gone on? So yeah, like, I don't even know how. It was just me and Mark were chatting, so we went like along. I was running faster than I thought I was going to. I'd taken my headphones off and didn't even listen. I listened to podcasts while I ran,
Which
not
one did you go
music.
for?
Did you ever used to watch Scrubs?
Uh,
TV show Scrubs? No.
don't think so.
You might
I
be a
feel
bit
like
young.
I know it, but I
Yeah.
don't know.
So it's like a medical comedy that you would be on like Comedy Central or something.
Okay.
And anyway, two of the actors from that have made a podcast where they rewatch it and laugh, and it's called Fake Doctors, Real Friends. And each episode is like an hour and a half. And so it's just good fun, like you're running along, laughing, because I used to watch a lot growing up. And so the bits that they're laughing about or they say was going on behind the scenes, I'd find myself laughing with, and it would just completely take me off.
Right. Okay.
Whereas with music, a song is about 3 minutes long, so you can kind of, it's not quite as distracting enough for me running with music because I still have an idea of how far I've gone.
And also, I guess, well, at least from my experience and other people, with music, if it's a certain song, it might push you to a quicker pace than you want to be, or maybe even the opposite way. But it's usually it makes you go quicker than you want. So do you never listen to music at all? Or
Not really, but I've never really been into listening to music.
okay,
growing up dancing, it was a lot of, and then doing it as my degree, it was a lot of just music was what I had to listen to. And so it's not something that I tend to do on my own.
That's interesting. Yeah. No, that's interesting. So, like, you weren't have a favorite kind of artist or anything like that? No.
No, and I'm very good at like, oh, I like this song, but I don't necessarily know who sings it or what it's called.
No, fair enough. I'd say a few years ago I was probably the same, yes, but that's interesting. I know a lot of people go towards podcasts as well at the minute. But yeah, so you had that little stint with your boyfriend, and
Yeah.
then was it 6 kilometers with another friend after that? Is that right?
Yeah, so he stopped there, and then my friend Maria jumped in for 6K with me. And obviously she was fresh, so she was like, what kind of pace do you want to go at? I was like, this is comfortable. I think we're probably at about 5:30 per kilometer at the time. And I was like, this is comfortable. I still left my headphones at home. And this was like the first time in a long time I've not listened to anything. But I was like, I've got company. I don't normally have company. Like, this is cool. I was just like, let's just try and keep under 6 minutes per kilometer.
Okay.
And we pretty much sustained that through all of that. So she was with me for 6K, got back for my last checkpoint, swept up another friend, and then there was 3 of us running for the last 10 and a half together.
Yeah, although didn't you tell your friend it was going to be 10 or something and it was 11? I mean, it's not that much, to be fair.
But yeah, so she was meant to run the London Marathon,
Right.
and then it got cancelled and she'd been injured and stuff, and so she hadn't really been running, but she was, because of how bad my marathon had gone, she was the friend that I'd called. And because of how bad my marathon had gone, she was like, I'll come and do the last 10K with you, and I'll throw sweets at you, I'll do whatever to get you through. And then she was like, I can't really do any longer than 10K. And so she'd got it in, she was like, I'm doing a 10K. And then sometimes when like you plot out a route but you run it and there's just a little bit of variance. And I was like, I think she's going to be running 11K and she's going to think we're stopping at 10. But I'm not going to tell her we're running 11 because I still needed to come and do it with me.
I love that,
yeah.
I'm sure she didn't mind, though.
No, she was all right in the end.
Brilliant. So, yeah, pushed on to the end, and big celebrations at the end by the looks of it. Like, you had so many people supporting you. You had big flag as well with British Heart Foundation on, I think. And just a lot of support. And was Bonnie at the end? I can't remember.
Yeah, so Bonnie was there at every checkpoint, because
have we actually said that Bonnie's your dog? I know we've mentioned Bonnie a lot. I don't know if we've actually said.
I don't think we have. So I've got a dog called Bonnie.
Yeah, there we go.
So yeah, I based like the base around where I live, so it was just easy for everyone that was coming that doesn't know the area.
Okay.
So I just kind of looped past around where I lived, and that was Bonnie, come here. And that was where the base was. And so yeah, we checked in there, and then Bonnie was at each check-in and was extremely excited every time I ran past and cheered me on like head cheerleader. But they all made the signs whilst I was on the run, so I had no idea this was all set up.
Oh, so they literally did it on the day?
Yeah, so obviously Mum and Dad had turned up with this massive flag at the first checkpoint, and then they brought like pens and material and cardboard and everything, and we're here with my housemate, and they were all making, there's one here actually.
I saw that in the background, I was wondering what it was.
Yeah, this one says brilliant. You've got this shot. And so they all made the banners and everything while I was doing it. And they made the British Heart Foundation one as well. But they didn't put the British Heart Foundation one up until I was on the last leg. So I didn't even see that. And so then they were like, we need to know what direction you're running in at the end. And I was like, well, it depends how much distance I've got to fudge at the end. I don't really know. And so then they were like, tell us which way. I was like, right, okay, I'll run this way. Like, okay. I was like, if I need to, I'll run laps up and down the road if I need to fudge any distance.
Yeah.
Here you go. Here's Bonnie.
Oh, hello.
Say hello to everyone. She doesn't really know what's going on.
It's blurred her face as well. Oh, what a cutie.
So they put all the banners up in the finish line and everything whilst I was on the last part of the race. So as I came in, I was like, ah! So it was really cute.
So did you finish bang on 50 when you saw them then? Or was it
No,
just before?
I'd managed to finish it just before. And then
Right.
I FaceTimed my sister and was just like, I have finished. I just need to walk a minute. I'm not ready to run again. Just let you know, nothing's gone wrong, because Maria had sent our live location so they could tell when we were going to get back. So I was like, nothing's gone wrong. It's okay. I have finished. I'll be back at like base in a minute. And she was like, okay.
Brilliant.
And
so
then,
Did you just walk to the kind of see where your family and friends were at the end then?
Yeah. So I came round and then I saw my auntie there with a camera, and I was like, we've got to run into the finish, really, haven't we? And so then all of a sudden I was like, oh, okay. My legs didn't want to run again.
Especially when you stop, it's a nightmare, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd been quite good in that I didn't like stop dead for long, maybe like 30 seconds. Then I was like, I need to keep moving. So I just started walking again towards where I live. And then I was like, okay, we've got to run into the end. This can't be like a super anticlimax where I just stroll around the corner. I'm like, okay, guys, I'm done. So yeah, we picked up a light jog and jogged into the finish.
Brilliant. Yeah. So fantastic ending, and the whole thing was amazing. Like, as we said, your total time was 4 hours 44. So obviously sub 5, which is incredible time in itself. The marathon, like the first marathon of it, was 3 hours 52, was it? Is that right?
3:55.
3:55, which is, again, if you to just do a marathon in a crowd with all these good conditions to get under 4 hours, especially for your first one, well, kind of second one, I guess, but is an incredible achievement. So you must be absolutely buzzing with both the time and, as I said before, the money raised, which is, I think, is it 1,200 now it's gone up to. So yeah, awesome.
Yeah, crazy. Like, I managed to, within the 50, I knocked 12 minutes off my marathon. And then it was just over the moon. As soon as I got that, I was like, crap. It doesn't matter what pace I do these last 8 in, I've got a sub 50.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way I could be running at like an 8-9 minute kilometer for the last little bit. I was like, I've got a sub 5. I was like, I just don't care now. I'm just going to run at whatever I can get my feet to move at. And so, yeah, when I got 4:44, I was absolutely astounded. And then because I'd entered a race that was supposed to happen this weekend, I had a mandatory funding amount that I had to raise.
Right.
And that was Bonnie. And that was
sorry, that they still kept that even with the race cancelled.
So technically, I deferred my place in to be able to enter an event next year as an official event, because I'd still paid to enter that. But I was going to do 50 kilometers this weekend, whether or not I was able to enter a virtual thing or not. And what happens with your fundraising page, the money doesn't just sit there. It gets, when people are donating into it, it gets sent off to the charity in waves. So the charity have already got the money. It's just a case of details on the page as to what the event is.
Okay, yeah.
So the mandatory amount to raise was like 395, I think, for the distance that I'd selected. And for me, it wasn't about just raising that amount of money in order to participate. For me, it was, I want to raise as much as I can to really make a difference.
Yeah.
And I've still got, technically, that fundraising is still my entry into my race next year, if that makes sense.
So is that exactly the same 50k next year?
No, I decided I didn't want to wait until September.
Right.
I've entered one. It's called the Easter 50. So it's, I want to say Easter weekend or the weekend after. So it's in April. I was like, I'm not waiting a year. I'll enter another one that the British Heart Foundation is sponsoring. And so part of it means that when it comes to that event, I haven't got the pressure of pushing for fundraising because I've already raised triple what I needed to raise.
Smashed it.
But equally, if people still want to sponsor the crazy things I'm doing, they can. And obviously I'll encourage that because I want, like I said, I want to raise enough to actually make a difference, not just raise enough so that I can run, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and you didn't just raise slightly over, you absolutely like smashed the target, so that's incredible in itself. And yeah, that kind of leads on to the next question. Obviously you've smashed this absolutely, smashed it out of the park, made so many people proud, done an amazing time, raised all this money. So what's next? Obviously you've just said you've got the 50k near Easter. Is that the next race you'll be doing? No, you've got one before?
Two more before that.
Oh, two more before. Okay. And then before you say what they are, maybe you'll answer it in this. Do you have plans to go longer than 50k?
Yeah. So not before then. So I've got one in December. That is the Hurtwood 50, which I think technically is 53 kilometers.
Okay.
And is about 1,400 meters elevation in there.
Okay, so a bit of a different challenge then, yeah.
Very different. So I've got that in December, which Maria, who ran with me this weekend, she's doing as well. So we're both registered into that. And then I've got another 50, 2 days after my 30th birthday in February.
Okay, what a way to have a birthday. Yeah.
Right. So I'm just going to celebrate my 30th like a week later because I still want to feel good to run. So I've got the North Downs Ridge, which is 50 in February. And then...
Just quickly, what's the elevation for that? Do you know?
I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's another Surrey Hills one. So I know it's...
So it's not like fell though, is it? It's just like trail hill kind of thing.
Yeah, it still counts as trail, both of them. And they're both Surrey Hills ones, just different routes and runs and different parts of the Surrey Hills. Okay. And then I've got the Easter 50, which again is around... I've picked my locations very well. They're not too far from where I live. Okay. Another one in Surrey. Okay. And then I'm July going to do the Salomon Serpent Trail, which is 100.
100, okay, 100 kilometers. Okay, so you're going to do 350s, like from now until like the last 50, and then 100 in July. Did you say?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. Like, so you're not stopping here with this 50. It's going to be 3 more, not straight away. Like, there's a few months between, but still nice and consistent. And then the 100 not to finish with, but as a total massive step up. Yeah, so we'll talk about the 100k in the future because that's a whole other thing in itself. But yeah, you're just going to kind of, from here, you're obviously, I'm assuming, going to rest for a little bit, enjoy yourself, basically. I know I'll be doing that in my position. And then you're just going to kind of hit training again because you can do 50k now. So how does that kind of work in your head? What are you thinking going forward? Training.
I want to do a bit of speed training. I want to get my fastest kilometer, maybe things like that. I have actually got a half. I have got a half marathon in October.
Oh, really? Okay.
I'm not really. So it's a deferred race that should have happened in July.
Which one's that?
It was the Leamington Spa half.
Okay.
And that obviously got cancelled. It's now happening on Warwick Racecourse, and so it's laps rather than a big loop half marathon. So it's going to be a completely different experience. So, but because in my head now, what I want to be doing, because I'd entered that as like a training run for my ultra, and now I'm doing it in October. And so whilst it would be good to get like a half marathon PB perhaps, my big goal is to be doing ultra marathons and smashing them. But like I said, I do want to get some speed work in. I haven't done any speed work for a while because the main goal is to be able to have been doing my long runs.
It's hard to mix it in, isn't it, really?
Yeah. But I would like to get some speed work in there, see if, you know, when parkrun comes back, if I can't get a good 5K under my belt. But I feel like speed training would be good because then it will bring my overall pace down. My main goal is to be comfortable doing the long ones. So
I think as well, a lot more ultra runners nowadays are adding speed work anyway. I know it's hard to mix, but it does genuinely help with the bigger distances. Just a lot of it's mental, but generally it helps you go faster as well. So I think that'll be brilliant, and I'm very excited to see your kind of progress over the next few months, and definitely the 100. I know that's quite a far time away, but that should be awesome. But yeah, I think we'll wrap up there, Charlotte. Thank you very much for we did it. We went over an hour there.
I know. You were like, it'll take about half an hour, and I was like, yeah, fine, great. Not that this hasn't been great, but I just looked at the time just now because I got lost in it, and I was like, wow, it's over an hour.
Big great. It's happened with a few people, so don't worry. It's usually the sign of a good
chat.
Interview. Yeah. So yeah, that was really interesting. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed it too. Just quickly, where can people find you on Instagram and any other website, social media you might have?
You can find me at Charlotte Clarke UK on Instagram, and I have got a blog at charlotteclarke.com where basically it's just at the moment a couple of like flapjack recipes because it had a massive overhaul. But the place to really find me is Instagram. Okay,
perfect. Yeah, thank you very much again, and thank you to anyone that's watched. Feel free to subscribe if you want to see more. Check out Charlotte, as I just said, and we will see you next time. Bye for now.